I'm down to dunk.
And I'm down to dunk.
I'm down to dunk.
This is J-Dub, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Shai Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lindy Waters, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Mike Muscala, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kenneth Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to dunk.
We say this is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
Cracklin Oat Bran?
Have you had Cracklin Oat Bran?
No,
No. Okay.
but it's healthy.
Are you a big oat brand guy?
I'm a big Oat Bran guy.
Okay.
I think I would switch it with Fruity Pebbles.
Okay, eat faster. Don't put as much in the bowl.
You have a gallon of milk I can also take home. You don't have milk?
One cinnamon toast.
Okay.
Crunch.
Yeah. Cereal is great. Yeah.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Wednesdays is my good friend Alex Speers. Alex, what's up?
Afternoon pod, Andrew.
It's a rare
We
one.
we could record straight through the game if you wanted to.
We could just hang on
Game starts in 4 hours.
another 4 hours and we'll be there.
We'll do a four-hour pregame. This is kind of like when Al and Jim, do like the OU game or something.
We could do it. You guys just want to hang around for 4 hours with us here?
We got to do it on
Screen.
location though. We got to go to like a cigar shop or something.
Yeah, true. Buffalo Wild Wings or something.
That'd be great.
The Thunder do play tonight in Phoenix. No Shai, no J-Dub, which is unfortunate because you kind of feel like anything's possible if we have Shai and J-Dub and Giddey.
Yeah, I hope we get them for the second of these matchups.
I know Shai has already mentioned it last night after the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that he
What
was
do you
like,
say?
he said, Joe was asking him after the game. Joe Masato, not Isaiah Joe. Joe Masato was asking him after the game about if there's like just any part of him that just is kind of bummed that he can't hop on this flight and go play in Phoenix tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Just because of the plan. And he's like, yeah, of course. It's like, I want to compete. I want to play. But he also knows that in order to play for the rest of the season, he has to kind of manage this injury. And he said, I've definitely have the game circled for when they come here in a couple weeks. So
Wow. Does that mean he has beef with Bays? I was about to say Devin Booker. Bays.
got Bay's beef. The Dario Saric. Hey, Dario Saric tonight could have his revenge.
That's true. I brought that up in the Discord, and people quickly reminded me that there's like Kevin Durant, Campaign, and Bays who could theoretically be getting their own revenge. So
It's true.
there's a lot of revenge angles tonight.
I don't think Bays will be getting the revenge. How many minutes has he even played with Phoenix?
I was just about to look that up because I
Not
mean,
much.
I saw him in one game, but then I don't know if he's played since then. He's played 6 minutes in a game so far.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think he's
And that
played
was it.
even double-digit minutes yet. So that should be an interesting one. That begins at 8 o'clock Central Time. A big one. It's also Kevin Durant's first home game. So also Chris Paul revenge.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
And
gosh.
Troxel in the chat. This is Kevin Durant's first home game. Kevin Durant's not losing his first home game, especially to the Shai and J-Dub-less Thunder.
Yeah, I'm just thankful they won last night's game.
Yeah,
Because-
I just thought if they could split these two games, which is probably best case scenario for a team the caliber of the Thunder, then you are in a good spot to like stay in the mix.
Yeah, and specifically against the Warriors, I know they've been garbage on the road. I mean, they are in the class of Detroit
7 and
and
25.
Houston. Like those are the teams who have road records like the Warriors.
Yeah.
Even still, it is the Warriors. Steph's back. I know Wiggins is out, but that was the first game post All-Star break where they had a win that I was like, okay, that surprised me a little bit. Like, or it was just good to see. Because even the Jazz wins, it's like, okay, we're at home. We should win this game. Whereas with the Golden State game, it's like, if they lose, like, I'm not going to be that surprised.
Yeah. No, I thought they would lose, especially after J-Dub was out.
Oh, yeah.
I just thought, okay, it's been good, guys. Good job. I thought a lot of things would have to go right in order for them to win. And in fact, they did go right last night. I mean, they shot 45% from three, 52% from the field, 83% from the line. They out-rebounded the Warriors. They really outplayed them in so many ways. Giddey was unbelievable. Obviously, 17 points, 11 boards, 17 assists. That's a career high in assists for him. Getting the triple-double. That was a big game. Shai had 33 on 24 shots. He was tremendous. Thought Dort played a good game. Jay Will just comes in and brings the energy just from the onset of the game. It just takes no time. And I wonder what obviously he's shooting a good percentage overall from three this season, but I wonder what his percentages are on first shots of the game three. It just feels like they always go in.
Yeah, we're now up to 68 attempts for him on the season. He's shooting 41%. Still one of those things I don't know whether to believe it or not because of someone like JRE, for instance.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't shoot 40%, but he shot 35%, and I was feeling like pretty good about JRE's shooting.
Yeah.
And it's ticked down a little bit. I mean, he's 33%, but he just doesn't look super confident. And so I still don't know how much to buy into this because it's only 68 shots.
Yeah.
In fact, somebody asked me this on Twitter, and I wanted to ask in the spring when we have some draft guys on, like, how many attempts does it really take for you to feel confident in a guy shooting when he isn't just like a natural, like he doesn't have the perfect form? Like you take someone like Tyrese Halliburton, like when he was coming up, how many attempts would you have needed to see to feel like, okay, he can make it with that form and he's actually a 40% shooter and everything's good?
Years.
No, Andrew.
I mean, he's gonna shoot a good percentage from three this year, even if he kind of falls off a cliff. Like
he will
still end up at like 36% or whatever, and you'd be like, going into next season, like, Jay Will, obviously a floor spacer,
right?
And then he could shoot 31% next year, which is kind of what he was as a college 3-point shooter.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me. But I'm loving the ride right now. Feels great fun right now.
Oh, it's very fun. He yelled right in front of us as he ran by, and just spit was just flying everywhere. It was amazing.
They kind of need someone like him because, like, Shai's not super emotional on the court. Dort isn't super emotional. Giddey can be occasionally, but Jay Will is by far, like, if there's like a heart and soul guy on the team, it feels like it's Jay Will right now.
Oh yeah, he's bringing the energy. He and Kenrich are the guys that kind of bring energy to the court.
It was so funny when Usman Jang, who had a nice game, hit that buzzer beater at the end of the quarter, and Jay Will just ran up right in his face, just screaming.
He's always screaming. He's incredible and just has the best smile, and he's just a great dude. We got to talk to him after the game, and he's just emanates joy all the time, which is just cool. Like, and he played pretty well last night too. 15 points, which is a career high. 6 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal, 6 of 8 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. Just to get that boost from somebody. I mean, he's playing the center position for the Thunder. To get 3 of 5 from 3 from the center position is pretty nice. I kind of think if he is a shooter, he's going to be kind of like Al Horford is, where the defense is just kind of like, whatever, do your thing, man.
Yeah, we're even like last playoffs when he's shooting like 50% from 3.
Yeah.
You're still like, okay, well, when's it going to fall off?
It's going to fall off the cliff any minute now, and we're going to let you do it. Yeah, he seems like that kind of shooter, which is, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I asked him just where did this come from? Like, where's the confidence come from? Where does this ability come from? Because he was not a shooter in college. I mean, he took them, but he wasn't good. And I think I stole a Billy Donovan line. I said that you didn't shoot the ball particularly well in college. And he said, yeah, he's like, my teammates are just really confident in me, and they actually get mad at me if I don't shoot it when I'm open. And so he's like, I'm just going to let it fly. It's like they have confidence in me. I'm making them right now. And he said he works on it a lot. I mean, you never know. You never know what's real and what's not with these guys. The Thunder won a game with Aaron Wiggins in the starting lineup. And the only 2 games, correct me if I'm wrong, that he started that they've lost are against the Warriors.
I believe that's right.
When Andrew Wiggins is also playing.
That's true.
I floated this theory last night. No Andrew Wiggins. When there's a Wiggins on the other side, it cancels out the Wiggins.
So there's still an undefeated stat, is what you're saying.
I think he's undefeated, I would say, as a starter.
And maybe if he develops into a player better than Andrew Wiggins, he will cancel out that so that we can then beat the Warriors with.
That's how we have to get there. That's how we have to get there. That's the only path I see as a viable path for him to just be undefeated all the time. But at least that's what it is today. He played well too. He had that block on Curry at the end of the game that ended up getting called as foul, and then coach's challenge, and then brought back. So like he didn't get like the full effect of like the block, but just kind of dialing it back to that moment, you're like, man, that's actually pretty impressive.
Yeah. In the moment, I didn't immediately know that, like, okay, that's definitely a block. He didn't touch him. Yeah. And then you watch the replay, and it was kind of amazing. He like did not touch him anywhere other than blocking the shot.
Yeah.
It was kind of an incredible block. I mean, how often does Steph get blocked from 3?
Not often.
I mean, he has such a quick trigger that you just don't have the opportunity. He's always running off some screen.
Yep.
And Wiggins was like at the side of him, like he was already behind him, kind of. And to get that block was pretty athletic.
Yeah, Wiggs was great.
Yeah, overall,
too.
Curry
was awesome.
You mentioned that a lot of things went right for OKC, which they did. But on the other hand, like the Warriors were good. Like they shot over 50% from the field. They shot 40% from 3 on 51 attempts. They shot 88% from the line. So it wasn't like we got a bad version of the Warriors necessarily.
Yeah.
Like they were still able to withstand a really good performance from the Warriors. Do you know what the Warriors shot at the rim last night by chance? Would you like to guess?
Like 84%.
81.5%.
Yeah.
And that was a third of their shots.
Yeah.
They're shooting 82% on. So
the roof was pretty wide open last night.
It was. Yeah. As much as, I mean, I love Jay Will. I love Dario Saric.
Yeah.
I think both of those guys have fit really well into this offense.
You're in love.
Say that again?
I said you're in love.
Oh, I'm in love. Yes. I said they're in love. I was like, great, whatever. But I'm still thinking of like Chet in the background because it's
I thought about that like 100 times. Like, that particular shot, like that Jordan Poole drive would have been swatted,
Yeah.
Or would have even existed.
But it is important, one, to prove that you can play good enough defense without a legit rim protector, which they have shown that they can do that, even with nights like last night where they're allowing 82% of the rim. But also to have 2 guys, and who knows what's going to happen with Dario going forward, but he is such a good fit in this offense. The way he has fit so seamlessly, knows what to do, knows when to make the extra pass, willing to go get his own. Like he's not just looking to pass. Like he's confident in himself as well.
Yeah.
And last night was just such a great game for him. I mean, he plays 15 minutes, goes 6 of 8, 14 and 5. I don't know, he's an expiring. I don't know if he'll be back on this team, but you just wonder if, they have all this cap space. If I'm talking to you, Andrew, don't think that they're going to make a huge splash.
I don't.
One way to use some of that cap space is just bring Dario back on like a very reasonable deal and just have him as your like second or third center, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely could. It just depends on like how they view Jay Will next year, I guess,
and probably JRE too, because
and
like
Jeremiah. Like if
the
if they
big thing of this game, we haven't mentioned it yet, but this is the third game in a row DNP for JRE, which is
Yeah.
kind of interesting because we waited all that time for him to come back. He
Yeah.
got his playing time, and now all of a sudden he's completely out of the rotation, which I think is deserved. Like he hasn't been amazing in those minutes, and Dario, on the other hand, has been awesome.
Yeah.
So I totally get it, but you wonder if they want to revisit Jerry at a later point. Then it's really hard to find Dario minutes. But maybe he's a good locker room guy. Maybe he's a good culture guy. It is wild when you think of their trade deadline. They got better.
They got better.
Like
Yeah.
I feel like that has been proven at this point. I mean, Muscala was awesome. He was great. Made a lot of threes. Was in a lot of positive lineups. But I'm not convinced that Sarge isn't actually a better fit in the offense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like the difference between just like a shooter and then a guy that can actually function in the offense. You know, like there's
And
a difference between there is a difference.
There is. And listen, right now Dario's shooting 46% from three, so it makes it a lot easier to say that.
It helps.
Because if he's shooting 33%, you're comparing him to Muscala shooting like 42%, okay, then maybe it's not as good of a fit. But when Dario's hitting his shots and he can, score from inside, and he's a really good playmaker, it does feel like they've gotten better.
Like he's not taller, but he's a bigger body that can roll the rim a little bit. He has really great touch around the rim. And you could see like he and Giddey had a little connection there for a couple possessions as they were making that run. And Dario's just got incredible touch around the rim. And he's played really well. And their kind of swarming type defense covers up some of his deficiencies there. Like he's not a great one-on-one guy at this point. But yeah, he's been really solid. Good passer, good ball mover. And like their big man rotation of Jay Will and Sharich has worked. They also went small last night where they basically played Giddey at center down the stretch of the game, which I thought was really interesting. I think that's something that we'll see more going forward with him too. That's like another reason why like I wonder if there's room for a guy like Sharich.
Yeah.
Whenever Chet comes back. Because if you want to play Jay Will and you want to play, obviously you're going to play Chet a lot of minutes at center. And then if you want to go small and play a guy like Giddey or J-Dub at center, or even Kenrich when he comes back at center, which is really like the silver bullet that they found is like these Kenrich at center lineups just really work. Then like if you're Dario, is this exactly the situation that you want to land with? Like maybe it is. Like
what if he's new Muscala and he just loves OKC? He's going to Scissortail Park every day, walking around. He's riding the streetcar, Andrew.
I mean, sure. If he loves it, great, awesome. He and Poku are kind of pals. I've seen.
Oh, really?
Yes. So that's cool. Saw Poku, give Poku a little fist bump last night. He seems to be in good spirits.
He's at least practicing with the blue.
It's going to take some time. They're wanting to slowly work him back. I think we will see him on the court again, which is that's another one. That's the one that we even forget about. Is like if Poku's going to be on the team next year, I would assume, and if he's on the team too, then there's even less big minutes. So I have a lot of doubts about Dario being on this team after this year. But he's sure been fun so far.
You mentioned the interesting lineup with Giddey at center. This game did feature what I thought was one of the worst lineups I've ever seen play in a Thunder game.
Yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about.
It was the beginning of the second quarter.
Yeah,
they're up 10 at that point. And they start the second quarter with Lou Dort, Aaron Wiggins.
I was going to say, whoa.
Yeah, that's what made it so crazy. They got a hurt guy from the other team. Lou Dort, Wiggins, Lindy Waters, Dario, and Usman Jang.
Yeah.
That is an insane lineup. Andrew.
That is.
Dort was bringing up the ball, and I was like, well, I don't know who else I'm supposed to want to bring up the ball. I would like to see Jang do it, but whatever. And that they lasted 2 minutes.
I was going to say,
and the lead shrunk to 3 in those 2 minutes.
Yeah, it was like, and you could And it didn't even take the full 2 minutes for Mark to realize what he'd done.
It was like he forgot to
called
put like
for Giddey.
a ball handler on the court. He's like, oh,
Well, I think he really is curious, and also like part of me is like, hey, it's March 8th. This is about the time that I throw out lineups like this, right? And then he just like snaps back into it. It's like, oh, I forgot. Like, we're not tanking right now. Let me get Giddey, hurry, get back in here, hurry. And it was literally 2 possessions that happened before he called for Giddey to come to the team back in. It was really
I just
fun.
thought it was such a funny lineup because I've been trying to not look at every single thing Mark does as a lever and to try to actually figure out, okay, what could he be trying to figure out with this
Yeah.
lineup? And that was one that stumped me. I was like, I actually don't know.
Yeah,
I
in
don't
what
know.
situation would this be a lineup that you would say this is ideal for us?
Like whose development is
Available.
this for? I don't know. But that was fun. Shai, the stretch he had in the third quarter,
Yeah.
which the Warriors were up 80-76 and they had the ball. So this is like, I mean, with the Warriors, it's like they could hit a 3, they're up 7, and the game's just
Oh
gonna
yeah,
be
this
over
thing
from
could
that point.
balloon fast. Yeah. Without a
And
doubt.
I forget what happened. They like either had a bad shot, whatever. OKC gets it back. He hits the mid range over Clay. He draws a foul on Clay. Then you have the Usman, Jang, and Aaron Wiggins free throws. Then he hits a mid range over Steph. Then he hits a step back 3 over Clay. It was just an absurd stretch of shot making for him because, you know, Clay is one of those guys. Maybe he's not as good defensively as he once was,
Yeah.
but he's still thought of as a tough matchup. And then Steph, like to his credit, that mid range over Steph, like I thought Steph played him pretty well actually, and Shai still hit it over him. He did it later in the game to Draymond. Like he basically got every single good Warriors player on that mid range play.
Yeah.
And on that mid range shot, and it was just really cool to see because he was so in control of the game, and it was a pivotal point of that game where they had the big lead earlier. Warriors, like there is no lead that's safe with them. They come back and then they get their own lead, and that's when you're starting to get worried. And Shai just settled everything down and made sure that that was still going to be a game going into the fourth.
Yeah, during that stretch, whenever they tried Draymond on him,
Yeah,
Kerr is yelling for Draymond. And so last night, the TV crew for the Warriors didn't travel. And so when the TV crew doesn't travel, the seats, like 4 seats are open right in front of us in the very front row.
oh, did you get to sit there?
We got to sit in the very front, which
Oh,
is
that's why you sent me that picture. Andrew sent me a picture of Steph with his leg up on the scorer's table directly in front of Andrew.
his foot was like 3 inches from my face. I mean, it was unbelievable. And you feel weird taking a picture, but it's like, man, I was texting with my cousin last night. He's like, shame is a young man's game. It's like, that's a great quote. So I sent him that picture too. And anyways, so during that stretch, Kerr was yelling for Draymond. He yells, Draymond, gets Draymond's attention. And then he mouths to Draymond, doesn't say it out loud. He mouths to him, you're on Shai. And then Draymond's like, okay. And he readjusts. And then immediately Shai cooks Draymond 2 possessions in a row. It was awesome. I think I tweeted that out. I didn't tweet that like Kerr was like trying to like be coy about it by like mouthing to him like you're on Shai. Like
Yeah.
he
I mean,
didn't
clearly
say
they
it
were
out loud.
trying to find something because, you know, Kuminga does an okay job on Shai. Wiggins is good on Shai. If Wiggins was playing, he's been good.
Yeah, that would be their guy, or GP2 if he was healthy.
Yeah. And Kuminga has moments where you're like,
no.
you don't think Kuminga has moments, Andrew?
He has some moments, but they're just like I was shocked by his stat line last night. Like he put himself in, I will give him credit. He put himself in good position to score and score efficiently. But there are just like so many other moments where you're like, oh my gosh, like he doesn't get it. Like he just doesn't get it.
Right. He makes up for some of it on those flash plays with just like how athletic and big he is.
Crazy athletic. Yes. Like easily the most athletic player on the floor last night. Like no real contest.
But I actually did not know until you just mentioned it that he scored 21 points in that game.
Yeah.
He did not feel like a 21-point game from Jonathan Kuminga.
Isn't that shocking? Like that was just like, wait, what? Was that the same game? And am I looking at a different box score? There were moments even down the stretch where it was just like clearly Kuminga was a problem. offensively and then defensively too. Like you can just tell like he's still learning the league. And then in contrast, you have Giddey, who's out there just orchestrating everything, like playing crazy hard. I mean, Giddey was unbelievable. And that's just kind of like an interesting, like sliding doors moment where had the Thunder taken Kuminga and Giddey is on this Warriors team, like Giddey would be amazing.
Yeah, he really would be with their movement. Because that's like what Giddey's really good at is where he's just like standing. He's not doing anything crazy.
At the 3-point line.
And people are just moving around him and he just throws these insane passes. If he could do that with this Warriors team, like he would be a god. With
Stephen and Clay, like, give me a break.
That like they were right to want Giddey.
He would have been perfect. He would have been so perfect for them. And now they kind of have to like try to make this work with Kuminga. And like they honestly are maximizing what I think he can do with this team. But he's just so clearly like a bench guy. And
yeah,
like,
it's tough because they can't like allow him to fully spread his wings because that's not the type of team this is. Like they don't have time to do that really.
Yeah.
Like if he had gone to Detroit or something.
Right.
So it's obviously a tough situation for him. I mean, all these guys, you think about how much money they have probably lost in future earnings just because they got drafted by the Warriors.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if Kuminga was on the Magic or whatever and averaging, I don't know, 18 and 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
People would probably be very excited about him. You know?
Yeah, we might be talking about him like early career Aaron Gordon or something.
Yeah.
And then he would have like the career transition late in his career where he finally gets into the correct role, which maybe it's this role, but I'm sure that's really hard for a guy who thinks of himself as a top 5 pick, you know, all these accolades coming in, everyone's excited about him. And then he has to go and be like a role player for the foreseeable future. Like when and how would it happen that Kuminga becomes like a more important player on this team as they're currently constructed?
Steph and Clay retire.
Yeah, so we're still talking about like years away.
Yeah, and he's still years away from being a contributor on that level anyways if he gets there.
I wonder how close, you know, once Giddey's off the board, I wonder how much of a conversation it was between him and Wagner.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Because I've never really heard any reporting about Wagner specifically.
Yeah, no.
And he seems like a Warriors player, but...
Dude, can you imagine if they had him?
If they had gotten Wagner. Well, it's interesting. You kind of wonder what he would look like because it is obviously they're different players, but like he was allowed that more freedom in Orlando to kind of develop his skills, and he would be in a much more constrained role in Golden State.
He wouldn't put up the stats, but he would fit so much better.
Yeah, he would.
I mean, he would. I don't think they would be in the position they are right now. Where like honestly, like I'm just kind of out on the Warriors.
Dude, when like Patrick Baldwin Jr., I know it's 4 minutes, but just the idea that they're playing Patrick Baldwin Jr., a guy who I don't know would get consistent minutes on OKC.
He wouldn't.
He'd probably be a DMP most nights, and he's playing
terrible on defense, like just like flat out horrible, can't do it.
And Iguodala, like I know he just came back.
Yeah.
But man, they have to get Wiggins back. They have to get GP2 back just so they can push some of these guys further down the rotation and don't have to even think about playing them or relying on them in that way.
Yeah, they definitely need those two because like even like the JaMychal Green minutes are just kind of like he just isn't very good.
But you can see like the actual good guys on the Warriors, like they're still good. Like they really have dropped the ball. Because like those guys are still good enough to win a championship if you just put a like average rotating cast around them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and right now, you know, like about the Anthony Lamb fiasco that's happening right now, that they're waiting until April to sign him.
Right. Because he's on a 2-way deal.
He's on the 2-way.
I don't know how many games. Is he up for games or does he still have like a couple left?
Yes, he's out. And so like they need to sign him. But they're waiting because it's going to save them
probably like more than $1 million.
Millions, like multiple millions if they just wait. And so I don't blame them because honestly, like if Anthony Lamb is really the difference between you making the playoffs and not, then you stink anyways.
Yeah, I saw some Warriors fans on Twitter last night kind of bemoaning the fact that Anthony Lamb like can't play right now,
Yeah.
which I totally get, but at the same time, like you said, it's like, man, you were in a rough spot.
It's kind of like us Thunder fans, like when Corey Brewer got hurt. We're like, oh my gosh, Corey Brewer got hurt. What are we gonna do? It's like that should have been just the canary in the coal mine for all of our bemoaning at that point, where it's like, really, guys, this is how you feel about this? This is not gonna go well for you. This is not gonna work out.
Yeah, because like I know that the Warriors are like in the end stages of this dynasty,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like they are still terrifying. Like Steph and Clay in particular can just like demoralize you as a fan watching them in a way that I don't know any other player that's made me feel that way. Like even LeBron, even Kobe, to be perfectly honest, because like at least with Kobe, you knew that like, well, he's going to miss some of these shots. Like maybe he'll get us at the end. But when Steph hits like 2 threes in a row, you feel like, oh my God, it's over.
Yeah, like here comes the avalanche. How can we even stop this? Is how it felt last night. I mean, he hit 10 threes last night.
Yeah, when he hit the one where he turns around and didn't watch it go in, like those are the ones where it's just like, oh no, what's about to happen?
Yeah, it's breathtaking. Honestly,
just like no player makes me feel that way. I was asking the Discord because it was like 6 minutes left, and I think the Thunder were up by 12. And I was like, what would the lead have to be right now for you to feel completely comfortable that the Thunder are going to get this win? And for me, I think it would have to be like
30.
Somebody said that. I might be willing to say like 20, 21.
Yeah. There was a moment. I'm trying to find where it was in this. Because I think it was okay, yeah, here it is. So a minute, it's like no, that's not it. Anyways, there was a moment within the game where the Thunder went into this prevent offense where they just like stopped the ball. I think this was it. Like a minute 30 left. The Thunder are up 132 to 124. And Giddey just kind of like stops and is just like trying to drain the clock is his mission here. And I'm just like, this is not good. Like you are not going to get a shot. You are not going to get a good shot here. And they didn't. He ended up turning the ball over. And that's when Kuminga like skied for that crazy dunk.
Yeah.
In transition, you're just like, yep, knew that was going to be bad. Knew that wasn't going to work. You can't do this. And then they're at 126 to 132 with a minute 20 left. And you just think, oh no, this is very bad. And then they get the ball up the court and they try to kind of do that again, but they double team Shai and then Shai has to call a timeout. And you're just like, I mean, honestly, that was a moment where like, this ain't over yet. The Warriors hit 2 threes. You get 2 Curry threes and like you're right back to tied. So you got to have to figure this out a little bit. And they got lucky. There was a coach's challenge that was.
Oh, that was the Dort. Oh my God. The end of that game was excruciating. It was. And then I immediately flipped to the Dallas-Utah game. And I hit it right when they did another coach's challenge. And it was like another 5 minutes of just staring at refs.
So many coaches' challenges right there at the end.
Yeah, I didn't get you watch the replay. So the initial call was Dort's out on the 3-point line and he's driving by Kuminga and Kuminga puts his arm over like his abdomen area.
Yeah.
And Dort kind of like flails a little bit. Yeah. And they initially called hand checking. I just don't know how you overturn it. Like what was the evidence to overturn that? I mean, if that it seemed like enough to be like, okay, that was maybe hand checking.
Monitor for forever.
And then for it to end with them basically doing a makeup call, because watching that replay, I'm not like positive that Dort really got there before Dante DiVincenzo.
Oh, I'm not either.
And so they call it on Dante DiVincenzo, and it's like, all right, fine, like whatever. Dort takes his 2 free throws.
Yeah,
but yeah, that felt very lucky.
Yeah, that did feel really lucky. So part of what was going on during this coach's challenge is Draymond Green, as he walks over to the officials and is in their ear. He's probably like 4 feet away, but he is talking really loud, as he always
What's he
does
saying? He's just
to them.
saying it's not a foul?
He said, y'all have been in the league too long to be calling this S in the last minute of the game. He said, you know it. And you know it. And he's just yelling at them this whole time while they're trying to like decipher this coach's challenge. And you can hear Steve Kerr yelling at them too. And so the whole time during this coach's challenge, they're being challenged by Draymond Green the whole time. And so they don't feel confident that it was really a foul, and you can tell. And then you also have like the Draymond element, which is like not nothing to them, and you can tell that it's not nothing to them. And so that's where I think that they were just like, okay, we'll just do side out. I don't know what to do.
And to be fair, like Draymond's not wrong, because if like that call doesn't really need to be called. Like if it had been called a foul and Dort had gone to the line, like that's a really cheap foul to pick up in the final minute of a close game. Mm-hmm. So like I get it. Like you'd rather just see them play. It's just funny that they followed that up with like kind of another cheap foul.
Yeah. Kerr, after that cheap foul, yelled at the officials, "This is a basketball game." That was a really good little taunt there. And
hey, it was nice to get a little help, because anything to stop like a Golden State Avalanche.
Yeah, I know. I know. And Dort making his free throws. Shout out to Dort for making those free throws.
Shout out to Dort. Steve Thunderfan. I know you saw this stat.
I did. I retweeted your quote retweet.
Yes, that's right. He went on pbpstats.com and looked up how many non-charge, these are not charges, non-charge offensive fouls have been drawn across the league this year.
How many non-charge does Conchar have?
Non-charge Conchar?
Non-charge Conchar.
He is not on the list, unfortunately.
Okay. All right.
Lou Dort, though, is, and he is number one at 76, I believe.
Yeah.
Drawn this year. Number two, now I'm kind of eyeballing this. Number two, Jalen Brunson has 45. The gap between 1 and 2, 76 to 45. That is, and if you look at Dort's stats from the previous 2 years, he played a similar number of minutes up to this point. Like I think he played 100 fewer minutes last year compared to this year, and then 200 fewer minutes 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I think he had like 56 of these types of non-charge offensive fouls drawn. Last year, it was down to 41, and now it's all the way up to 76. And I mean, I don't know what the record is. No one's probably ever looked it up, because who cares? But it's kind of a skill. Like we've noticed it as fans. I just didn't realize it was this dominant compared to the other guys in the league.
Yeah, I mean, if you total up that with the amount of charges this team takes, I mean, the amount of turnovers they generate just from those moments is a lot. And it's part of like the equation. Part of it's like the Thunder have guys that have long arms that are quick and good feel for the game on the defensive end. Like, yes, that exists too. But then it's these moments as well that have them turning over opponents more than anybody else in the league. I mean, the Warriors, part of the reason that the Warriors lost last night is they turned the ball over 21 times.
Yeah. And you can get those turnovers in a lot of different ways. Like, obviously, you could generate steals, which is how we usually think about turnovers.
You should think live ball turnovers when you think about turnovers. But this is
charges and offensive fouls drawn also count.
Yeah.
And they're so helpful, because it's almost like the coach calling a timeout, which, by the way, I thought Mark had great use of his timeouts last night. Like anytime like Steph would hit a three, it felt like there was a timeout immediately after to cut it off.
That's a good point, because those are moments where you start to like figure out like what kind of coach is he really?
Yeah. You know? Doesn't let an avalanche happen.
Yeah.
Or if it's going to happen, there's going to be multiple timeouts in between to like focus the team.
We're going to chop up this avalanche as it just pummels us.
But drawing those type of offensive fouls where they a regular team might not get them, those kind of help with that too, because it just kind of bogs everything down for that offense briefly, and it kind of shakes up the momentum. So I just thought that was wildly impressive. And I'm not saying that it's like legit. Like I'm acknowledging that there's probably a grift part of this in the same
Oh.
way that like James Harden and Trae Young know what they need to do to get fouls. I'm guessing that Dort is smart enough to know what he has to do. You
100% he
you
does.
can't be that far ahead of the rest of the league unless you have figured out some trick.
Well, he knows the right angle, and he is just willing to run through these dudes
Yeah.
and has like the physicality to do that. Honestly, not many guys in the league could do it. Honestly, don't think there's another player on the Thunder that could do this besides Kenrich.
Are you talking about force, Andrew? Are you talking about playing with force?
Force. I mean, that's what Dort is using, the force all the time, man. All the time.
He is, and it's just nice to have a stat that Dort is really good at, because I know Dort has been the focus of some negative attention this season.
Sure.
But hey, that's something that he does really well, and I will bet, Andrew, that stat in the coming years becomes like more well known nationally.
Yeah.
Because it's just kind of like I bet somebody does like an article on it or something.
Oh, without a doubt. This is definitely
In
like
fact, Mark Schindler, if you're listening, they said free article idea. I think it's
That's
pretty
right.
cool.
Yep. Dort. Yeah, it's definitely one of his things. I mean, it's like 1 or 2 a game guaranteed if he's playing. It's gonna happen. And like Kevon Looney was just like beyond just mad after that call on him, because he is just going to the official like, what did I do? Like, what happened? What did I do? How is that a foul on me? This dude is running through me. How is it on me? I mean, he was so mad. Kevon was also not good last night. I guess he's dealing with some back issues.
Yeah, I mean, he almost sat out, but he's an Iron Man, Andrew. I mean, he has the longest active streak of consecutive games played.
You could tell that he's trying
Can't
to keep that streak alive by playing those 11 minutes. And
He's got it. Andrew, I have some questions. These came up in the Discord, and I thought since you were on the ground, you might have some insight.
okay.
One, the guy hit the half-court shot,
Yes.
and after he hit it, storm chasers ran out. One storm chaser collapsed.
Yeah.
He landed on his foot. We couldn't see it on the camera. I was just wondering if you got a better look at that. Was he okay? Was he
No.
able to walk off on his own power?
No.
No?
It was a wild sequence of events. So this guy, his name is Rex, steps up and hits the half-court shot. First of all, he's bringing the most swag I've seen from anybody that's hit this shot. I mean, he's doing the mellow.
Especially because he like wasn't an amazing free throw shooter. Like he got by the free throws.
Yeah, he barely got there, but he stepped up, shot that thing like a jumper, swished it, and is just like giving everybody like, yeah, I knew I was going to make this. The storm chasers go just berserk around him. This particular storm chaser that got injured. So you're like, have this like range of emotions, like, whoa, this is crazy. This is cool. And then as you're watching, you just see this guy collapsing. And we're sitting on the floor, and I could feel his head hit the floor.
Oh, his head hit the floor?
The back of his head hits the floor.
Oh, no.
So Cliff Brunt of the AP was all over this. Cliff Brunt spent the next 25 minutes maybe looking at the video, because he videoed the whole thing. And looking at his video, as I'm like trying to watch the game, he's like, hey, Andrew, like, this is what happened to this guy. Like, he's just like going through it. And he hits his head. So what happened is that he like sprained his ankle severely, loses all of his balance. The group is just like a mosh pit, basically. And somebody knocks him back, and he just flies back, can't catch himself because he's trying to like grab his ankle.
Yeah.
He doesn't have his like a way to catch himself, and his head just slams against the wood floor. And so he's like just like, you at first you're just like, I don't even know if he's conscious.
Yeah.
I don't even know what's going on. This guy just won 20 grand. Like, what in the world's going on here? And he has to get like almost like pulled off the court by like other storm chasers, and then like some people that are within game ops. And this was like not that far from halftime. So I go back there during halftime, and he is conscious and he's okay, but he's like in a wheelchair. They're like wheeling him out in a wheelchair.
Man.
So pretty brutal time for this storm chaser. I felt bad for him.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice if he was the one who won the 20,000, because then you feel okay. But it's like you didn't even win the money. You're just celebrating. You're just happy for another person,
Just
and
happy.
you get injured.
Yeah, it was quite the range of emotions just as a viewer. You know,
Wow. Well, thank you for the in-depth analysis, because I
Yeah.
didn't know if you had known what happened or not.
Oh,
The
yeah.
other question I had was, what happened to the main MC guy? Because in game entertainment, it's a girl now who
Yep.
has been here like the last, maybe since the All-Star break. I don't know. I don't
She's
recognize.
been there for
Has
a
she been
little
there?
while. Yeah, doing
Okay.
like different like smaller segments. I don't know if he's on vacation or if they're phasing him out. I have no idea, honestly.
Okay. All right. I said I would ask, so
Yeah,
that's the answer.
I have no clue.
Let's see. I might have a few questions from Discord.
Yeah.
This is an early Fry Pod Discord question, but I'm stealing it. What happens? What needs to happen next season for Shai to have a legitimate MVP case? Honestly,
Great question.
so I've been thinking about this, Andrew, because
Mm.
the MVP discussion is heating up, to say the least, this week.
Been so
And I was looking at last season, because Jokic was kind of seen as like an obvious choice last year.
Yeah.
But, you know, I forget what the Nuggets seeding was. It wasn't great. They were like the 5th or 6th seed. But I just wondered, if we had only had the stats that we had in like the 80s, 90s, 2000s, let's say, who would have won MVP last year?
Yeah.
And I kind of think it would have been Devin Booker, because I was looking at the Suns. They were 8 games ahead of every other team in the league by record. Like, it is, I think we talked about this last year on Slam and Jam. It is so rare for a team to be that far ahead of the rest of the league. And the fact that his MVP case just wasn't, it didn't even really exist for the most part. I mean, there were Suns fans who obviously were, you know, making the case for him.
Yeah.
But didn't even really
they had an
exist.
Incredible season last year, the Suns.
And the reason I bring that up is because I don't know if Shai's stat line is ever going to lead to the type of advanced stats that get people really excited. Because that was the thing with Booker. Like, you look at his stats and like they're very good, but other guys like Jokic their advanced stats are always going to be superior, even when Devin Booker was the best player on the best team who was significantly better than the rest of the teams in the league.
Yeah.
And so I think about, my initial reaction to this question was, oh, well, if they're the number 1 seed, he'll have a decent shot. I don't know. Maybe he won't. Like, he might even need to be better statistically than he was this year, which I think he's like been amazing this year. Maybe if he takes more threes and he's shooting like 40% from 3 to kind of improve his efficiency even more, so that he shows up at the top of those advanced stats lists and not just kind of like, in the middle to the back of the top 10, maybe that would do it. But I'm at the point where, if we're going to rely on advanced stats primarily to decide the MVP winner, I don't see the scenario where Jokic isn't going to be the odds-on favorite every single year. Like, it's almost like his game was designed to spit out the best advanced stats.
It's true. It's true. He's highly efficient, good rebounder, crazy.
And he doesn't take like a ton of shots, so his efficiency is always like super high.
Yeah. He only takes shots he knows he can make,
And this is like not a shot at Jokic at all. I'm just asking, like, if a season like Booker's last year, which, as I started to go back, I was like, man, that was kind of an amazing season. When you just look at like the narrative perspective of like best player on the best team, and the best team is significantly better than every other team in the regular season. For him to not even really sniff the MVP last year, like, I don't know what the scenario would be where Shai would have a legitimate shot.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, if the Suns were the best team, but they weren't like dominant. They weren't like, oh my gosh. Like, they weren't like Warriors. They weren't like
Warriors, but in the setting of that season, they were dominant.
Yeah, they were good. Even the advanced stats, though, like, show that they're not like an elite team of the last decade or something,
Yeah.
I don't know. People
Yeah,
are
I mean, by
Tigers at the end of last season, before the playoffs. Like, they were just a part of the NBA community that didn't believe, and they were right to not believe.
Yeah,
And
for sure. Yeah, if you go by simple rating system, which is one of the team rating stats that they have on Basketball Reference, Boston, who won 13 fewer games than Phoenix, actually had a higher SRS.
yeah,
And actually, I just want to see. Wow, this season is there's no one close to those two teams.
I know.
This is such a weird season.
It's been a wild season. Like, this is what you get when you really push for parity, and like that's what you want. Like, this is what the league starts to look like, which I think is exciting and it's very good. But like, you don't have like these juggernaut teams. At least right now, there's not a juggernaut team. Like, one could emerge still. Like, it's still possible. But right now, the league is like, I think it's in a great place, to be honest. And we'll see where everything goes. But yeah, it's going to be tough to win an MVP. I think he'll be in the conversation sooner than later, honestly. Mostly just because I think this team is going to be good sooner than later. And
They better be, Andrew. They better be.
I mean, they're already good right now.
Shut up. The pressure's on. The pressure's on, Presty.
They're already good, and they're going to get better. Just naturally, they're going to get better. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. What do you think of Jang? I think that was kind of one of the other things from the game that we hadn't touched on yet, is that Oos probably played his best game as a pro last night.
He's. I mean, I know it doesn't matter, but individual plus minus, he led the team plus 20.
Yeah.
It was a rough start, Andrew. Okay, because there was a play that was kind of like symbolic of everything that kind of bothers me about Jang, which is that I forget the player he was going up against. It was a smaller player. It was like DiVincenzo or something. But he had a chance to just go up strong, dunk the ball, and instead he tries to like lay it up and he misses it. And it just was one of those plays where like, come on, man, like you have to.
It doesn't have to be like this.
You have to be stronger, and it's not like physical strength. It's like I just want you to be stronger and go up stronger, play with force. From that moment, however, outside of one play, I thought he was really good in his role.
It was Jordan Poole, by the way.
It was Jordan Poole. Yeah, it was Jordan Poole.
Which even more feels like, oh, come on, man.
Yes,
Jordan Poole.
Jordan Poole.
Jordan Poole, like, dunk on that guy.
I think, obviously anytime he makes his threes, it's going to feel like he had a good game. But I thought defensively, you saw multiple moments where he not just held up, but like he's doing his job defensively. And that's probably more playing into the plus 20 than necessarily anything he was doing on offense. So that's still what gets me excited. Like that play he had where, when was that? I think that was the second quarter where he stripped Curry.
Yeah.
Well, I guess not a strip, but he stole it. He jumped the passing lane with his long arms.
Well, he had to rip it from his hands.
Oh, sorry. I'm thinking of two different plays. So there was the one play where he got it in the passing lane, and that was his like first steal of the game. But then, yes, so Curry like runs directly into him. It was kind of weird at the top of the key, and Oos is almost like forced to play with force, Andrew.
Yeah, make
he
a
just
decision.
Rips it from him.
Yeah, he just like jumps. He almost
ahead.
like jumps into like Oos's arms with the ball, and he's like, "Decide your career,"
Yes.
Yes. And Oos just grabs the ball. He had to rip it from him. I heard it happened really close to me, and I'm just like, that was it.
And to immediately throw it to Dort, it was a really nice pass. So yeah, those kind of plays get you excited. And he, like I mentioned, he had that other steal that I thought was really good too.
Yeah.
So and of course he has the shot at the buzzer, which is kind of like the cherry on top.
It was cool. It was a cool moment because you're just like, I don't know what's going to happen here, and he sidesteps and he makes it, and it looked really smooth. And like that's one of the reasons they draft him, is that he's a guy that can push the ball up the floor, handle some, and get his own bucket. I mean, that's what you hope for. And he's still super young. There's still a lot of time to develop the guy. But, last night I feel like he definitely met the challenge, I would say.
And I think if you're, still thinking about like the tanking versus fight for the play-in conversation.
Yeah.
When we were talking about possible levers, we didn't know if he would be a lever or not, but we said we just like to see Ousmane Dieng get more minutes in this final stretch.
Yeah.
And I think games like last night show you that like he's not really a lever on the level of other levers in the past.
Yeah.
It's tough to get out. But you know what I mean? Like he isn't going to tank this. He's not early season rookie Poku.
Yeah.
Where it's just like you don't know what's going to happen.
He's a lot further along. Part of it is like he's not willing to be reckless. Like Poku
right.
Poku had this like reckless like fun about him that like that's one thing I really loved about him was just like what in the world is
he had loud minutes.
Yeah. One way or the other was going to be loud. And some games were really good. And some games were just like, man, like this is the full edition of Schlecht and a Fool. This entire thing is it. Like they don't need any more. And Oos is like just way more contained. And you can tell like he's really trying to soak in what's going on around him. And he's like really trying to get better. And so I'm curious to see how this goes. Last night was really good. And it was a test against a good team that you felt like, okay, these Oos minutes like could sink them, honestly.
Yeah, he played against the Warriors 19 minutes and was a plus 20. Like there's really nothing negative to take away from that.
You can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah, that was great. Honestly, not too many guys had a bad game last night. Thinking about the tanking conversation, I do want to come back to the fact that they have sat JRE the last 3 games, and they've sat Trey Mann the last 2 games. Obviously, guys go in and out of the lineup.
Yeah,
I have to resist the thing of like, oh, they must be
out of the rotation. Yeah,
I'm sure we'll see them again. But for this part of the season,
we'll probably see them tonight.
We actually will see them tonight for sure. But for this part of the season, I don't know. I felt like the rotations last night were like winning rotations, like we're trying to win this game rotations.
I thought so too.
Other than that second quarter lineup, which was the height of experimentation.
Other than like the glitch in the matrix that happened in the second quarter. Yes, I would agree that it did feel like they were playing lineups to try to win the game. And part of it too is like who didn't play well last night, like what player was like, oh man, they kind of had some rough minutes. Like it was nobody. Like Lindy had 7 points in 6 minutes. I mean, everybody came in the game and contributed positively. Like the guys that were like negatives were like Wiggins, Shai, and Jay Will. And like you can look at all 3 and be like, no, like they actually contributed a whole lot to this victory. And that's where like the single game plus minus is like, yeah, whatever. I don't know what to do with this.
Except for Oos.
Except for
this case, it matters.
It matters tremendously.
I was looking at the rest of the schedule. Somebody posted it on Twitter.
Yeah.
OKC has more road games than any other Western Conference team. They have
six home games left is all they've got.
Yeah, six. That's it. Out of 17 games, which if you can do math, that's 11 road games.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Hey, plant your flag. Playing the lottery. Where are you?
Playing or lottery? Okay, I have to admit I've been pretty impressed with the Lakers in a way I was not expecting to be.
Yeah, same.
Over this recent stretch. So, assuming that, or even not assuming that LeBron gets back, I think they're going to be right there. So I kind of give them a spot.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm out on the Jazz. I'm done with the Jazz.
The Jazz are done with themselves.
Jazz are done with themselves. So that comes down to the Pelicans, Thunder, and Blazers.
Yeah.
The Blazers both of those teams have been super concerning as of,
gosh,
like recent history. The Pelicans still don't feel like they've broken out of this rut that goes back to like the beginning of the year.
Well, and Zion's going to be out for another 2 weeks at least.
Yeah. So I don't know why I should have a ton of faith in them. I like them. Like it's the same team, the same roster that was so good last year and made that late season run or like second half of season run. So there's a party that's like, it has to be in there. Like it has to come out at some point, even though Zion's not there. Like they've done this without Zion before. So isn't going to kick in at some point. And that's why that game, which I think is the game after the Suns game, like that is huge
Yeah.
against the Thunder. Because
Here's-
that
Yeah. No, keep going.
I was just going to say, like, that's okay. That is one of their road games. So OKC goes onto the road this Saturday, plays the Pelicans.
Yeah.
And that feels like a massive
It's a big one.
game.
They get what's good is that they get Shai several days of rest before that.
And maybe J-Dub.
And hopefully J-Dub plays too. Here's the Blazers next 6 games. Boston, Philly, New Orleans, New York, Boston, Clippers.
And those first 3 all on the road.
Yeah.
And then coming home to play Knicks, Boston, Clippers is really tough.
Yeah. The Thunder also play the Blazers once as well.
Yeah, I got to go to that game. It's a Sunday matinee game, 4 p.m. out here.
That's a big one. So they have 1-2 games against the Pelicans. They have a game against the Thunder. Those are big. They have one against Utah and one against San Antonio that are just gimmies. But the rest of their schedule's really tough. Like New Orleans, Sacramento, Minnesota, Memphis, Clippers, Golden State. I mean, that's going to be tough. For like the Blazers schedule is pretty tough.
And they're still waiting to get Nurk back. He's not back yet, so that would obviously help. Simons is sort of back from his issue. I think he was an ankle sprain, but he didn't play in their last game, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still trying to get healthy as well.
Yeah, I mean, of those 3 teams, I believe in the Thunder the most, but I know
that's how I feel, but I don't want to say it.
I mean, it's true. Like I mean, there's a lot of numbers to even back it up.
Of those 3 teams, they've been the best team this season. If you look at like all the, did you know? So shout out to Steve Thunder fan again. I think he pointed this out that their expected win loss, which I think is based on the Pythagorean theorem thing, 36-29. If you just took a team with, their net rating and everything, that team would normally win 36 games. They'd have 36 wins right now.
I mean, that makes sense. You look at their like offensive and defensive rankings. You even look at their point differential. That is still
that would put them at the 5th seed, which is exactly where they would line up based on point differential.
Yeah, they would have 36-29. That's the same record as the Suns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've played like the 5th seed in the Western Conference.
This is why I just believe in them next year. And honestly, if they end up with the 5th best point differential and they're in the play-in, like I get more excited about that because you get to add a lotto pick, you get to come back, and I think that you get to play a full season of just like let's let this thing ride. And it's not like they're not doing that now, but the injury to Kenrich is a big deal. Trying to incorporate all these younger guys is like a big deal. Whereas I think we'll have a better idea of what Oos is next year than we do right now. And I think that he will be more ready to contribute next year. And then plus, like, obviously you have the Chet element. You have a full off season of like, what in the world does J-Dub come back as next year?
Yeah.
And also Josh too, who by the way is younger than J-Dub and is going to get another full off season.
And younger than Chet, right?
I believe that is true.
Let's look it up right now. He is 20 days and 20 years and 149 days old. Chet is 20 years and 311 days old.
Wow. Younger than Chet. Yeah. And it's just funny. Like the Giddey narratives are just funny. We don't have time to get into it, but like Giddey, I mean, if I told you before the season, Al, hey, Giddey is going to average 16, 7, and 6, and he's going to shoot 48% from the field, 31% from 3, 75% from the line. Like, how would you feel?
Pretty good.
You'd feel so good. You'd feel great. And you would say, like, hey, and he had a 17 point, 11 rebounds, 17 assists, triple-double against the Warriors in a meaningful game. How would you feel?
Pretty good.
You'd feel pretty good. Anyways, I don't know. The Giddey stuff kind of gets out of control sometimes.
Andrew, this is really going to blow your mind.
Okay.
How older do you think Giddey is than Ousmane Dieng?
Is it less than a year?
5 months.
Yeah, that
It's actually less than 5 months older than Usman Jang.
Yeah, that is wild. That is a wild one. Because Us like just looks and feels way younger.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where like I'm not trying to like dog on Usman Jang at all, but there's just like Giddey just has something in him that's just like, oh my, like there's something really special about this guy. And we got to see it last night, and that makes it easier to kind of like back up that statement, but it's he's a really good player, and he's somebody that I think is going to come back and be even better next year. And my belief in J-Dub is like through the absolute roof. And then we're both Chet guys. We don't have to talk anybody into Chet. Like Chet's been our guy for over a calendar year now. So
still my guy.
Next year is going to be really, really fun. So, all right. Enjoy the game tonight. We will have another show for you on Friday, recapping that game and discussing all kinds of things for the Friday show. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you guys again on Friday.